Imagine that you've just stepped outside, taken a fresh breath of morning air. Now imagine that you live in a country where every time you wake up and go outside, you have to strap on a mask just to perform the basic function of breathing. This is a scenario that Chinese people face on a day-to-day basis. I'm a biological engineering major here at Penn State, and I was granted the opportunity to go to China last summer and experience these things firsthand. So we all understand why this is happening. It's air pollution. Obviously, air pollution is the cause of why you have to wear these masks every time that you go outside. So I'm assuming that many of you don't know exactly the why and the how of the air pollution, and many more of you have not experienced it firsthand. So I will begin talking about how air pollution happens, why it's happening, the effects on the people of China, as well as the future outlook for China. Air pollution is a detrimental byproduct of ongoing industrialization in China. This is a ghost city in China, which is essentially, if you go to any large city, go to the outlying rings of the city, you will see the skeletons of buildings, which are essentially apartment buildings that the government is building to house farmers that they're moving from rural to urban land. In this picture, you can see all the cranes on the horizon and all of the buildings just waiting for people to fill them in. The government is essentially making a policy trying to move people into the cities and have people work in the cities instead of rural land, so they're essentially undergoing an industrial revolution. They're moving 250 million people from the countryside into the cities as we speak. Now, this is a graph of how effective this policy has been. As you can see, from 1980 approximately till now is the equilibrium point. China has been undergoing its industrial revolution and sending farmers from rural lands into urban lands. As you can see, as time goes on, the farmers and people from rural lands will keep on moving to urban lands, and this will cause China to continue going under construction and to need more materials and energy to be dispersed throughout. So now that we know that, let's look into coal plants. Coal is the biggest natural resource that China uses in manufacturing and construction. This is a graph of CO2 emissions due to coal plants. You can see a large increase since the Industrial Revolution for China has began, and a spike around 2003. This will cause massive emissions from coal plants, will cause, essentially, they'll keep going up until China either discovers a new technology or creates some sort of reform. The people that they are moving from rural to urban lands obviously need electric and thermal energy. So this is essentially where it's coming from, these coal plants, which are giving off extremely harmful, noxious emissions. So from these toxic emissions, many Chinese people have health complications. Now, this is a graph showing the effects of overexposure to air pollution on the population. It was approximately 1.2 million people a year that have premature deaths from air pollution, rather. As you can see, the elderly are the people who are affected most by air pollution, primarily because their immune systems are weaker and because they've been exposed to this kind of pollution for a much longer time. So now that we see how these air pollutants cause asthma, respiratory disease, cardiac disease, pretty much anything that has to do with the cardiovascular system or the pulmonary system. Now, this is a graph from the World Health Organization that shows the appropriate healthy levels for air pollutant particles in the air. Their level is about at 25, and as you can see, the US, Great Britain, and Australia are all below that, which is a good thing. They have less particles in the air than are deemed healthy. Now, China, on the other hand, is about 3 times that. And you can see that these air pollutant toxic particles, they get into your lungs. PM2.5 particles are extremely small particles that can penetrate deep into your lungs, and they're cancer-causing emissions from natural resources being burnt or spent out for energy. As you can see, China, without any reform in 2025, if they keep going the way that they're going, they will approximately go up to 150 PM2.5 particles on the score scale. So I've talked to you today about how and why this pollution occurs, the health effects that air pollution has on the population, and what China's outlook is for the long run. Personally, I believe that we as engineers have the ability to shape the world. According to the engineering handbook, we have a responsibility to the population to keep them safe and keep them out of harm's way using as much available technology as we have today. And I think that with a more practical approach to filtering air particles, we can save millions of lives and prevent many premature deaths for the people of China. So I look forward to talking to you about this topic in my solution presentation. Thank you.